I saw the Pope for a private meeting, and I asked him to write a foreword for my book. He's very kind, nice, and of course, holy, we can say.
Welcome to A History of Marketing. I'm Andrew Bittrak, and this week my guest is Gabriele Carboni, a marketer, author, consultant, and speaker. I met Carboni by way of introduction through Phil Kotler. Carboni and Kotler have co-authored multiple books together. Gabriele is also probably the only marketer to have one of his books endorsed by the late Pope Francis. A note about this: I'm publishing this episode just a few days since we learned of the passing of Pope Francis. But I recorded this conversation with Gabriele a couple of months ago, when Pope Francis was alive but had been in the news due to health issues. Gabriele shares some great stories about meeting His Holiness and earning an endorsement from the Pope. And by the way, when I started a marketing history podcast, I never expected the papacy would play such a prominent role in an episode. But this is not a current events podcast. Carboni also speaks to the rich legacy of the Italian Renaissance, Enlightenment, and Italian Humanism, and how the ideas from these eras and schools of thought influenced marketing as a field and inspired Carboni to focus on impact marketing. It's a timely episode, though I'd like to think it covers timeless topics. Now, here's my conversation with Gabriele Carboni. Gabriele Carboni, welcome to A History of Marketing.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
So we connected via an introduction from Phil Kotler, and you recently co-authored a book with Phil. So let's start the conversation there. How did you first learn about Phil Kotler, and when did you first meet him?
I was already beginning my company, which is a marketing company, obviously, digital marketing company. Digital marketing was my hobby. And then we started a company with two business partners because, of course, I was good in building websites. I was good in creating graphics. So the operational part, I had it, but I needed to understand better the strategy. So I bought a copy of Marketing Management, and then I read it. And then since I'm also a journalist, I was invited to Milan in 2017. Phil Kotler was speaking there. And this is a fun story because in Italy, you need to be part of an association to be a journalist. It's not just you write and you are a journalist. You need to get trained and then to be part of an order. There is the order of the journalist. So you have your press badge. So I went to the event with my badge and I said, I am a journalist. This is my badge. Of course, I'm not known as a journalist. It's not even my job. But I was there with my badge and I said, look, I'm a journalist. I have the badge. Can I interview Phil Kotler? And of course they said, of course you know, because we don't know you. You're not in our list. So go and listen to the speech, but you're not going to meet him. And then I said, okay, at least I get a free event with Phil Kotler. I was going to listen. After the event, was very small. It was in a university in Milan. And I saw that there was a press room. Then I went to there was a person, on the door. And I said, look, I'm a journalist. This is my badge. I want to interview Phil Kotler. And he said, no, you're not on the list. I took a look inside the room and I saw a pregnant woman, which happened to be, the press manager. And I told her that my wife, which was true, was pregnant too. So they were both at the 7th month of pregnancy. And we start talking. I tried to, be nice with her. And since, we connected somehow, she said, okay, after everyone, if we have like 30 seconds, you can have a picture with him. And this is the max I can do. It happened that at the end of everything, he was, drinking a coffee, eating something. I had my occasion. I had my photo with him. And then we had half an hour to speak. So I happened to be the last, but I got all the time of the world. And it was very nice because I gifted him my first book, which was in Italian, but he liked the approach. I tried to explain him an idea I had at that time, which then became this card deck, which actually was awarded by one of the 3 best marketing innovation in the world in 2019. And he gave me a lot of advices. And then I asked him to write a book together, and he said no, because of course he didn't know me.
Yeah, you're pushing your luck a little bit there. You've already gotten in. You've gotten to meet him. You've gotten a half hour, and right in the first meeting, you've asked him to co-author a book.
Exactly. So a year later, 2018, he came to Bologna, which is near where I live, so it was easier. Still with the journalist badge. At that time, I was already known by the organization, so I got an interview. And I asked him again to write a book together, and he said no. Then in 2019, I already made the card deck. And again, I went to visit him in Rome in that time. It was the last time he went to Italy because after that there was COVID. And he said, "Oh, this card deck is very nice. We can do something together." And so we started to have an email exchange, and we started to write something. He wrote a foreword for a book on digital marketing I released. And then I went to Sarasota to visit him. And at last he said, "Okay, we are going to write a book together." Actually, in your interview with him, he was talking about a small and medium enterprises book, and that is the book we have written together, which is this one, Enlightened Management. And now it's available in English since December last year, and it's going to be translated into Italian in a few months. So it was, pushing the luck, as you say.
I'm going to ask you about Enlightened Management and your work on small and mid-sized businesses. I want to ask on at a detailed level, what is co-authoring a book with Philip Kotler like?
I write very fast, so in 3 months I wrote the first part of the book. In like 3 hours, he replied with all the modifications. So the problem with him is like he's very active. Also Saturdays and Sundays, even nights. I don't know. He's super fast, so I had difficulties to keep his own timing.
It is amazing. At the time that you met him, he must have been into his mid 80s, and as the time I interviewed him, he's in his early 90s, and he's remarkably fast, remarkably sharp, and smart, and you got to keep up with him. So I want to shift gears and ask about another very influential world leader that you met, Pope Francis. And of course, we're recording this in late February of 2025, and there's been a lot of news about Pope Francis's health, and we certainly wish His Holiness a speedy, full recovery. You are the first person I've ever met who had his book endorsed by the Pope. And I want to read this quote. His Holiness encourages every reader, every business leader, and every person of goodwill to take inspiration from this work, to transform every professional environment into a place of growth, not only economic, but human and spiritual. That's the end of the quote. And first off, congratulations on earning a endorsement from the Pope. I'm sure that's very meaningful to you. And can you just tell me the story of meeting Pope Francis and how you came to earn an endorsement from His Holiness?
Yeah, I was invited after COVID to a very big event they have organized in Assisi, which is the city of San Francesco. There were like 1,000 young economists and marketers from all over the world. So I was very lucky to be invited. And I saw the Pope very from the far. And that was the first time, but it was very exciting because, it was with 1,000 people all together waiting the Pope. It was very, very emotional. And then I visited him for a private meeting the year later. So it was 2 years ago. And I asked him to to write a foreword for my book. The book was not already written, and of course they replied by his offices, not him in person. They replied that they were not interested. Actually, part of that book is now Enlightened Management. So some of that content was presented to Pope Francis before Phil Kotler. It happened that I wrote a book with other very famous professors in Italy about civil economy, and that was published by a Catholic association. So I wrote to the Pope's offices because they said no, but they gave me their email address. So again, pushing luck, I wrote them and said, "Hey, I have another book. It's already done. It's published by a Christian association. Can you please write something?" And they replied with a full letter, and it was crazy. It's really nice to have a comment by the Pope. Then I met him again last year. I
Wow.
gave him a little butterfly as a gift, and actually, Philip already knows this, but no one else knows it. I sent it a copy of Enlightened Management, and I asked for another comment. So I'm a lucky guy, and I
Yes.
push it a lot.
No, being politely pushy, that's definitely a lesson for marketers there, and just shoot your shot, right? You gotta give that a try. Can you just set the scene of what is it like to meet the Pope? What are you feeling? What is the environment? Because I never will in my life. And very few of us are lucky enough to meet the Pope, and you're the first person I've met who met him. So what is that like? What is the feeling like?
But you are usually not alone because they are private meetings, but with, I don't know, 30 people, 100 people, 200 people. And he is very kind. He shakes hands with everyone. So we were 300, and everyone got the handshaking and a picture with the Pope. It's like 3 seconds, of course, but everyone. And also, he gives you a small gift, very, very emotional. And then he always give a lecture. Last year it was about AI, so very, very interesting. And then you have, if you want, you can say something like, again, 2 or 3 seconds. But he's very kind, nice, and of course holy, we can say.
So I want to talk about some of your philosophical background into how you became a marketer. And in our email exchange prior to this interview, you mentioned that you began your journey with exploring Italian humanism. And can you share more about what Italian humanism is and how you went from this philosophical pursuit to becoming a digital marketer and a marketing author?
I think it's about humanism. Also, Philip wrote his second autobiography called My Life as a Humanist. And well, I think Italians have in their background the Renaissance and the humanism, which helped us a lot to think business in a different way. One thing I've learned is that in the past, more or less, where we have the humanism, which was before Renaissance, companies had God as a shareholder, meaning part of the profits were given to the community because, of course, they didn't, fire the money to God. They just gave to the community, and which is now something we do with benefit corporations or companies that have a purpose. So that intrigued me very, very much, and I bought some books. One I have here for you. It's a book, original book from 1800s,
Hmm.
and it discusses the economies of the 1700s. It was before the Industrial Revolution, and everything was about people.
What was the name of this book?
Yeah, of course, it's in Italian. Economics Ideas of Economists around 1848,
Okay.
about Augusto Graziani. I think one copy available maybe in the world.
And for listeners, it looks it's not some reprint. This looks like a physical copy of
No,
actually
no,
from
physical copy and very, kind of
weathered.
ruined.
Yeah.
Yes, weathered. And I really appreciate the fact that as Italians, we are always put people at the center of our business. Before the Industrial Revolution, of course, agriculture was the main business, and it was a business between man and environment, which is something we are looking for now, maybe without a good success.
In our exchange, you also mentioned that, well, obviously, Italian humanism has a direct lineage to the Italian Renaissance, and that a lot of modern branding could be traced back to the Renaissance and Italian humanism, or at least like modern branding practices. And if you think of things like the Medici family, which is a name that you just hold in such high regard today, centuries later, that clearly there's some branding element there. And I'm curious if you have any other examples of branding practices that have roots in the Renaissance.
Well, everything in the Renaissance was related to the arts, not only paintings or statues also music. The point was, I think, to emotion people and to give a sense of beauty in the cities, in the houses, the castles, even churches, of course. Also, the church was a very important player of the Renaissance. Everything in Rome, basically, you can see now, aside the ancient Romans, they are from the Renaissance. I think art is one of those elements you can use to touch the heart of people, and when you do that, then people attaches to your brand. In that case, the brand was the name of the family or the church itself, and that was a great branding for Medicis, for example. It's so great that everyone knows who they are even now. If it's not marketing, I don't know what it is.
And from this era, you introduced me to a book called The Book of the Art of Trade by, I might mispronounce this name, Benedetto Cotrugli. Is that right? Could you
Cotrugli,
pronounce this
yes.
name for me?
Benedetto Cotrugli. The
Cotrugli.
GLI is G,
Yes.
like tagliatelle also.
I'm not going to say it again. I'm not going to embarrass myself again, but Benedetto, I'll call him that. He wrote this book in 1458, and this was a fascinating book to dive into. And it's not a marketing book per se, but it covers business practices that tie into marketing. It talks about accounting, running an ethical business, professionalizing business practices. And he even talks about the importance of merchants to have proper attire and to be well informed about areas like cosmography, geology, philosophy, astrology, theology, and the law. So just the idea almost of personal branding in a way of if you're a merchant selling something, know things that just be an erudite individual, be well learned, present yourself because you want to come off as trustworthy to your potential customers, and then they'll buy your products. So not exactly marketing per se, but definitely personal branding and certainly salesmanship. I'm curious how you came across the book, The Art of the Trade, and what takeaways you had from it.
Well, let me say that it's available also in English. So the Book of the Art of Trade, it's actually the title, the English title. So it is available on Amazon or I don't know, anywhere.
It was published long enough ago. It's all in the public domain too, so you can find it free online. And I found a
Okay.
PDF of
Okay.
it.
Good.
Yes,
Good. Good.
yes,
Also.
yeah.
Well, it's good because again, it goes putting people, environment at the center. I found it because I was studying civil economy, so the economy before the Industrial Revolution, which is now fancy in Italy, and there are some universities teaching civil economy, and one of the book they suggest is exactly this one. I think that it also teaches you how to relate to what we call now stakeholders. So I think marketing and business in general, it's all about relationships, of course, with customers or potential customers, but also with employees, talents, and everything that we now call stakeholders.
Moving on from the Italian Renaissance and some of this area, I want to also touch on the Enlightenment, or the Italian Enlightenment, and of course, Enlightenment is very important to you. It's part of the title of your book. You know, we talked in our exchange on email about the Italian Enlightenment, and when I, as a somebody growing up in the United States, when I learned about the history of the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, the Renaissance was focused on Italy. And a lot of the Enlightenment, though, tends to focus on the northern countries. And even if I look at the English Wikipedia page of the Enlightenment today, you see France and Germany and England and Scotland. They're referenced a lot more. And Italy's mentioned, but it's not quite as prominent there. So can you tell me about the Italian Enlightenment and what differentiates some of the Italian Enlightenment thinking of this period versus some of the other countries I mentioned?
But maybe someone will be mad about this, but we didn't have so much of Illuminism, Enlightenment, because we had humanism way before
Mm.
that. So Enlightenment is kind of a humanism after a few hundred years. And the main point, yes, maybe
So
French
the
people will,
Italians were so
will be
far ahead of the curve. It's like you had your Enlightenment centuries earlier. Yeah.
exactly what I mean. It's my fault if someone is is mad. I said that. Well, During the humanism, people started to read because at that time, not a lot of people could read, and not
Hmm.
a lot of people could have access to books because books were handwritten, and mainly people of the church could read and could have those books, aside some very rich, noble people. And then they started to spread ahead some books about also ancient philosophy, and that of course created a movement that then bring us to the Renaissance and then spread around the world. And at one point they invented the printed books, and that helped to spread the word. And I think enlightened, it's something came before the print books.
Right. Yeah. So the Enlightenment in the Renaissance area might have been captured by some of the handwritten stuff, but of course the printing press, and that changes everything as far as what's available to people, and who gets the privilege of owning books, and who gets to learn these
Exactly.
ideas.
Exactly. Principles of enlightenment in that kind of era, economics, are the same that we are reading now in civil economy. Actually, civil economy was invented by enlightened economists in Italy, and also Adam Smith was a reader of civil economy. But then, the Industrial Revolution pushed everything to profit and product, so we kind of forgot uh, the person, the people, and uh, decided to go for the product and the profit.
And so this idea of civil economy, which you've brought up a few times, it's I think the people that are most associated with this, and again I might butcher these names, is Antonio Genovese and Agostino Paradisi. They
Yes,
wrote and are kind of the thinkers that are most associated with the Italian civil
exactly.
economy.
Antonio Genovese was the first in Europe, meaning maybe the first in the world, who have a course at the university about economics. So the first university course in economics was in Naples with Antonio Genovese. And then Agostino Paradisi, which was born here where I live. It's called Vignola. It's a city called Vignola in northern Italy. He was born right here. And he had the first course about civil economy at the University of Modena. And mainly they put again people at center, but they gave us something that is now you can now reuse for sustainability, which is the relationship between companies, the government, and the community and third sectors. So they already knew that the market it's going to be rich and prosper if companies works with government and with the community together. They didn't have the environmental problem, of course. That is the main point.
Yeah. So all of this tour through history of Italian humanism, the Italian Renaissance, the Enlightenment, all of this, I hope listeners have come along with us on this journey through philosophy and history, and thinking, how does this tie to marketing? Well, it all sets the stage for impact marketing. You've spoken about these ideas of business not just being for commerce, but being for people, that everything is kind of all connected, and marketing has an impact on everything. So this area of impact marketing is a specialization of yours. And so, in your own words, could you define what impact marketing is and how it differs from a traditional marketing?
Yeah, you can define traditional marketing as the profitable satisfaction of needs. Use the shortened definition, which is the one I always remember, but it is correct. So the profitable satisfaction of needs, meaning marketing cares about profit and customers, which is kind of a small definition in today's environment. So impact marketing instead is a strategic approach of the company which relates to the community and the environment to create a positive impact. In this definition, profit is just a result of the positive impact of the company. So this is marketing, impact marketing. So while marketing just cares about profits and clients, Impact marketing cares about all stakeholders, including environment, to create a positive impact which results in profit.
Thanks for that definition. And how has impact marketing evolved as a field over the years? Or when do you feel like impact marketing first sort of entered the lexicon of marketing, and how has it moved over time?
I defined impact marketing when I was reading civil economy, studying civil economy. Since economics is a big field, I wanted to bring some of the ideas to marketing, which is maybe more modern than economics, at least in my industry. And then I brought those concepts to marketing, and it was just a few years ago, I think. Yes, more or less during COVID, which was also in some ways the better environment to start an idea like that, where we have seen people care more about other people, about the environment, and so on.
The reason I'm kind of asking is also about how it's evolved is as these ideas of companies doing good, not just for their shareholders, but also for the environment. It's something that I feel like has probably ebbed and flowed over time. I mean, of course, Phil Kotler himself wrote the book, or broadening the definition of marketing, and has social marketing ideas. And I think, and economists have also pushed back on this over time. There was somebody in America named Milton Friedman, and he would argue that the social responsibility of business is to increase its profits, and almost like, nothing else. And so then also there's ESG is kind of being part of companies as well, and there's sort of been like almost a push and pull, I think, between companies sort of purely just focusing on their bottom line and returns to shareholders, and then these ideas of, well, what else can a company be doing as well? And then therefore, not just what the company could be doing, but could marketers within that company be doing? And so it just seems like there's always been kind of at least for the last several decades or so, sort of a push and pull between the social responsibilities and impacts marketing and businesses should have.
I always use this analogy of the butterfly. Companies, normal companies are like caterpillars. They go from leaf to leaf to find new customers, new profit, and to evolve themselves. But they don't know they will evolve into a butterfly. And that's good because, caterpillars need to live, to sustain themselves. Of course, the first sustainability is the financial one. And then they evolve. They create the chrysalis. We can say they start recognizes their values, and they create this chrysalis with values. And at a later stage, they evolve into butterfly, and they start flying around, and they see there is not only that tree with only leaves. They see they're part of an environment, and then they discover they can relate to that environment. So this is mainly the concept of impact marketing and enlightened management.
I love that analogy, because if you think of yourself as a small business, of course you want to do good for the world, but to do that you have to sustain yourself and earn some profits. So you need to evolve over time to be able to have the full positive impact on the world that you'd like. I'm wondering if you have any examples of either impact marketing in action, or businesses that have kind of gone this caterpillar to butterfly journey, and started one way but evolved to really embrace impact marketing as they grew. What are some of your examples of impact marketing in action?
Well, of course, benefit corporations. In the US and some other countries like Italy, you can have a benefit corporation. My company is a benefit corporation, meaning as a company, it is written that we aim for profit, but also we have some sustainable goals, and we need to achieve that year per year. And they have the same value as the profit goals. So, for example, my company gives 20% of the net profits to community projects, and that's an example. And we have the B Corps. So those companies, mainly big companies that has B Corp, are B Corp certified. And I think many companies, and this is one point, many companies already do a lot of good. They generate a positive impact, but they do not communicate it. And this is very true, I think, for small and medium enterprises. They always donate something. They support some community, local causes, and they do not share the good they do, which can be can be can be good. But if you share what you do, then other companies can bring your example and do the same.
Yeah, I think of examples of companies that have done that successfully. Like there was these a shoe brand called Tom's Shoes, and they were very popular. Probably especially, I mean, 15 years ago, or I feel like they were really at their peak, or that was around the time they launched, and they really brought attention to the importance of shoes for the poor, or I think specifically for shoes in regions of Africa, and there was this idea of buy a pair, give a pair, and that they're relatively low cost made shoes, but they're sold at a premium price. And the premium that you're paying is as a consumer is sort of understanding, yeah, I'm supporting a good cause. I'm supporting shoes for the world. I'm willing to pay these. And it almost it became like a social status symbol in a way. Like I'm wearing these Tom's shoes. I'm not wearing some big fancy other designer shoes. I'm showing that I care about a cause. And it made, well, Tom's a more popular brand. It also brought more attention to this issue, and consumers benefited in that they got to wear shoes and sort of signal to others that they care about causes like this.
Yeah. Another example could be Patagonia, which is very well known around the world. Maybe I think the first B Corp. Uh, yes, many big brands like Danone, even they are B Corp certified, and you can read everywhere what they do. I know very well Danone in Italy, and they do a lot of great projects for the positive impact.
When it comes to other companies adopting impact marketing, what are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that need to be addressed for impact marketing to be more widely adopted?
Well, I think it's the mindset for those who already do some charity or they're already active in their community is to start communicate. Also because customers more and more care about products, even if it's B2B, they're starting to care about to have suppliers that care about sustainability. This is also forced somehow in Europe because big companies needs to share their sustainable report, for example. But also many companies ask for the ESG rating for their suppliers, and of course, customers prefer to buy sustainable products. So that is one point. Another point is that many companies think that sustainability is a cost instead of an investment. Now we already have a lot of studies saying that sustainability is not a cost, it's an investment, and there is a return of investment even shorter than we thought before.
I want to come back also to your book, Enlightened Management, and how marketers, especially small business marketers and entrepreneurs, can really apply impact marketing from the start. And this book is all about how to take these ideas of impact marketing and apply them for small and mid-sized businesses. I love this area because I've been a small business owner myself. I came from a family of small businesses. My professional work today is about marketing products to small businesses. And I just think that this is a really cool idea of how do you build a business that has social good and thinks about long-term impacts beyond just your profitability right from the start as you're building and founding and growing your business. So why did you focus on small businesses, and what are some of the top lessons and takeaways that you have for small businesses and entrepreneurs?
Well, big companies, as said, of course, they have more money and they are somehow forced or anyway invited by governments to do something. So they are already in the path of sustainability, at least. And
Uh-huh.
you can think about also Unilever with Paul Polman that was bringing the purpose at the center of every product. Small companies, as said, they usually don't have the mindset or the money to start this kind of new way of marketing and of business. So we try to give in the book some practical advices. There is a whole chapter, a whole part about tools that small and medium enterprises can use. One concept I want to bring you is the concept of the new P's of marketing. So we have redefined the four P's, which are product, price, place, and promotion, of course. Thinking about just one P, which is people, to the third power. So it's going to be people times purpose times planet, which equals to prosperity. It works very well. It's also on the cover of the book. People, purpose, planet, and P cubicle. It works even better in Italian because people to the third power, we say people elevated to three. I don't know if you say it also in English, but we say elevated. So meaning that the person is elevated if it works with purpose and it works for the planet.
I see what you're saying, because it's people, and to the third power, the three would be elevated on top of it. We don't use that term, but I can visualize exactly what you're describing. Like, just another example of the Italian language being much more poetic and pretty than English. Are there any other takeaways for marketers and entrepreneurs into really applying this into practice? Or if somebody is a marketer who's listening to this today and they're inspired by some of the ideas of enlightened management, what could they do as a daily activity, or as they're planning their next marketing campaign, to sort of bring some of these ideas into their work?
Well, there's something that it was very difficult for me, which is to find my purpose. And it took me a lot of time. I explained it in another book, but and there are those nights you cannot sleep because your brain still works. And I understood that my purpose was to help companies to function differently, to do business differently. This because my father had a small company, and he was one of those focused on the product. It was a car repair garage, and he was always focusing on the car, and the car was perfect. Everything was great, and you could trust that company that your car was perfect every time. But they forgot about the people who drive that car. So they were always late. They were treating employees not very well. And so I wanted to explain companies that you can do business differently. So one thing is, if you can find your purpose, you wake up every morning knowing what you are doing and why you are doing that. I think everything will be easier.
I think I can relate. I think everybody can relate to those nights as you're thinking, "Am I doing the right thing with my life? Am I?" Even when you feel like you're successful, or you had what you thought you wanted, that time passes, and you kind of get restless, or you think you need second guess things. I found that becoming a father and having kids, I think, also changed my perspective on a lot of things too. I think of the planet they'll inherit, the types of companies they'll work at, the types of jobs they'll have, and how you want them to spend their time. So it is something that, yeah, thanks for sharing that was, sort of part of it, because I certainly relate to it. I think listeners relate to that as well.
And I always follow Yoda's quote, which is "Do or do not. There is no try."
I think that's right. No, you're totally right. And I think you've exemplified it with asking Philip Kotler to co-author a book the first time you meet, or asking the Pope for your endorsement. I think also, even for me, I relate to it somewhat on this podcast, is you think about the things you want to do, the projects you want to do, and you're like, well, I can think about it, but how about I just do it? How about I just send Philip Kotler an email and see if he wants to talk? And then sometimes he will say yes, and the universe sort of pulls you in a direction, or gives you signal that you should keep kind of pulling on that thread and exploring those ideas. So I think that's right. We've gotten very philosophical here, beyond just marketing, but I think that's right. Is that beyond just strategizing and coming up with a perfect strategy, actually acting on it, and that's a very good lesson for people to take away. Well, I've really enjoyed speaking with you. It's been so much fun going, back from Italian humanism, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, how all of these ideas from 500 plus years ago can impact how we think about marketing, what we choose to prioritize. And also, I just loved hearing your stories, both about meeting Philip Kotler and Pope Francis. And it's just been a really, really fun conversation. Where can listeners find you online, and how can they learn more and support your work?
Well, I think LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. I always respond also to direct messages. So if you have any questions, just write me and I'll reply.
Thanks so much for your time. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you very much.
A History of Marketing is written and produced by me, Andrew Mittrack. If you'd like new episodes delivered right to your inbox, visit marketinghistory.org. There you can also find transcripts of every conversation, including helpful links, images, videos, and other blog posts about marketing history. You can send me an email at hello@marketinghistory.org. If you'd like to support A History of Marketing, consider leaving a review on your favorite podcasting app, or better yet, tell a friend about the show. Thanks for listening.